The first.
Yeah, quick, yeah. You're gonna get over to Calibration Brewery because they have half price beers today. Oh, if you wear your stickers.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Closed meeting? Now that we don't have the session after, that's a good idea.
I want my house. Exactly.
She's the only one that.
Do you guys want to give me a motion to close?
I make a
executive?
motion, we close the executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Zach Sampson.
I know, he's outside.
Yes, okay. Let's put the meeting.
Now, do you want to take off those others now? or-
No, you'll have to open the meeting first.
Okay. All right, let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting, August 7th, 2018. We have a moment of silence.
No, we need to take those items off, don't we?
Okay. Let's have a moment of silence first. Rick?
Now,
We need a motion to take off, what, number 2, 3, 4?
No, items 28, 29, 30, and 31.
Yeah.
Need to be removed from the agenda at this time.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Legal? Okay. Moving right along. Comments from the public? Hearing, no. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm Liz, 2417 Erie with Board Parks and Rec. And thank you, Fred, for suggesting that everyone comes to the movie. It was fantastic. The bank over here, Miller and Jane, they supplied all the popcorn and drinks. We went through 150 bags of popcorn. It was quite a success, and we have a concert in the park Friday night. And I want to thank Zach. He was very good. He worked till 11 o'clock with me for that movie. It was a wonderful deal, and thanks for all the support we get. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 9.
ordinance approving the First Amendment to the TIF plan, Bill number 7304, ordinance number 9101.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the city councilor, Tom Barzee.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this evening before you is an ordinance that, if approved, would approve the First Amendment to the TIF plan with respect to 1 North, our redevelopment project that's going on. To kind of make it as simple as possible, the changes are really just update changes in numbers, et cetera, but the total budget is not increased by what's happening here. It's just kind of cleaning up some things and making them so they're accurate. And don't be surprised if we come back again at some time in the future and do the same thing as this project moves forward. And so this was just so you know, this was considered by the TIF Commission as required by law back on July the 10th. There was a public hearing held then, and the TIF Commission unanimously approved this. Nevertheless, the ultimate decision is yours and not the TIF Commission's. Theirs is only a recommendation to you. It is certainly not binding upon the city. So if you have any questions about this, I'll be glad to try to answer them, and if I can't, I'm sure the developer's attorney, Mr. Abbott, who's here this evening, would be glad to answer any questions you may have as well.
Well, the TIF Commission recommended it, didn't they?
Correct.
Yes.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance approving the First Amendment to the North Kansas City Destination Developers Tax Increment Financing Plan, making findings with respect thereto, authorizing certain actions by city officials, and containing a severability clause.
I move that bill number 7304 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9101.
Second.
Call roll.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance approving the First Amendment to the North Kansas City Destination Developers Tax Increment Financing Plan, making findings with respect thereto, authorizing certain actions by city officials, and containing a severability clause.
Number 10.
An ordinance approving redevelopment project Area 1 Apartments, Bill number 7305, ordinance number 9102.
Eric?
Thanks, sir. I'll call Mr. Barzee.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, now as a follow-up to what's been accomplished here just a few minutes ago, I'm going to really address 5 items at once, the next 5 items on the agenda, because they are essentially all identical in substance, except for the fact that each one deals with a separate project area, our different component developers that are developments that will go on within this area. And it just happens to be that Area 1 are the apartments, Area 2 is golf entertainment, and Area 5 is the hotels, Area 8 is a restaurant, and Area 9 is an office building, which is actually the medical office building that's under construction. The TIF law requires that we have to activate this as we go along. And so tonight, what we will be requesting is not a full reading on all 5 of these ordinances, but only the first reading. And then at such time as the developer decides it's the right time to implement the entire TIF on this, they will come back and request that we pass have the second reading, and therefore pass the ordinance. And you generally, and Mr. Abbott can correct me if I'm wrong, but our experience before in Northgate, this usually happens when the building is about done or whatever, so that when it's getting ready to go on to the tax rolls, they can get the longest time period over the 23-year period. Sorry about that, Crystal. Possible. And, my best guess is, because it's under construction, it's possible you may see a second reading of Project Area 9 by the end of this year. That's I think, reasonably possible, because the medical office building, as you drive by, you can see it is significantly up. At least the superstructure itself is up, and they may be back. I wouldn't anticipate the others will be back this year. I mean, that would be my best guess. They probably won't be, but nevertheless, this is just step 1, and so you're activating all 5 of these if these ordinances are passed tonight. And that's all you're doing, and it'll just be a first reading.
First reading.
These are probably for Mr. Warner, or either one. Several questions just on these sites. And this applies to all of them. Do you have component developers for all 5 of these sites?
For one apartment, yes. Hotel, yes. Golf, there are 2. I'm Mark Abbott with Bolsonelli, counsel for the developer. Apartments, yes. Hotels, yes. Golf, there are 2 possibilities that we're pursuing. Office building currently under construction, and then the
Restaurant.
The restaurant, yes.
Okay, and then does the city have plans on any of them besides the office building?
The hotel, yes. Apartments, yes. Restaurant, I don't think so. And golf, no.
All right, any idea when you see construction begin on any of those sites besides the office building?
Yeah, and one thing to dovetail off of Mr. Barzee's comments, We may be coming back for requesting second reading, final approval for some of them this year. The apartments and hotel we're anticipating happening at most late fall, but before then, we would most likely request second reading at that time. The restaurant is the same developer as the hotel, so we anticipate that once the larger project, that the other one will just kind of follow along. And then golf, we don't have a firm idea. We're still kind of working those two.
Perfect, thank you.
First reading.
Second.
Do we have a motion?
Seconded it.
He did, first and second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
We just need an all in favor.
All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed?
An ordinance approving and designating redevelopment project Area 1 apartments of the Armour Road redevelopment area in North Kansas City Destination Developers LLC tax increment financing redevelopment plan as a redevelopment project and adopting tax increment financing therein.
Okay, 11.
An ordinance approving redevelopment project Area 2 Golf Entertainment, Bill number 7306, ordinance number 9103.
First reading.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance approving and designating redevelopment project Area 2 Golf Entertainment of the Armour Road redevelopment area in the North Kansas City Destination Developers LLC tax increment financing redevelopment plan as a redevelopment project and adopting tax increment financing therein.
Number 12.
An ordinance approving redevelopment project Area 5 Hotel, Bill number 7307, ordinance number 9104.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance approving and designating redevelopment project Area 5 Hotel of the Armour Road redevelopment area in the North Kansas City Destination Developers LLC tax increment financing redevelopment plan as a redevelopment project and adopting tax increment financing therein.
13.
You need some water, Crystal? You doing okay?
No, I'm
Okay.
still going.
Okay.
Number 13, an ordinance approving redevelopment project Area 8 Restaurant, Bill number 7308, ordinance number 9105.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance approving and designating redevelopment project Area 8 Restaurant of the Armour Road redevelopment area in the North Kansas City Destination Developers LLC tax increment financing redevelopment plan as a redevelopment project and adopting tax increment financing therein.
14.
An ordinance approving redevelopment project Area 9 Office Building, Bill number 7309, ordinance number 9106.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
An ordinance approving and designating redevelopment project Area 9 Office Building of the Armour Road redevelopment area in the North Kansas City Destination Developers LLC tax increment financing redevelopment plan as a redevelopment project and adopting tax increment financing therein.
Good job.
That one can change. Number 15.
Armour Road Complete Street Bicycle Lanes Bus Stop Removal and Relocation.
Eric.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Cole.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Your existing contract with the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority states that no passenger amenities or bus stops may be removed or relocated without agreement or consent from the City Council of the City of North Kansas City. As we are working with WSP, our engineering consultant, on preparing plans for the Armour Road bike lanes, one of the last items that we've been working on is coordination with KCATA about the bus stops on Armour Road between Fayette and Ozark and making sure that we are minimizing conflicts between the bus stops and the bicycle lanes. To refresh your memory, this project is adding bike lanes from Fayette to Ozark, as well as adding on-street parking, parallel parking between Fayette and Knox, adding pedestrian refuge islands at key crossing points for pedestrians, and making some improvements to the intersection at Iron as a follow-up to the Armor Road Complete Street Plan, which was adopted last December. As we were talking to KCATA about the bus stops, we've determined in working with them that it would be best for both the bus stops and the bike lane to slightly relocate 2 of the stops and also to remove 2 of the stops. Now, we have 10 bus stops between Fayette and Ozark. We have 6 on the south side of Armor Road that are eastbound, and we have 4 on the north side of Armor Road for westbound stops. There's a map included in the packet that I can pull up on the screen if that's helpful for our conversation. And we included a table in the staff report here. What we are recommending is removing a stop at the southwest corner of Armor and Fayette that has 2 daily riders. No people get on at this stop, but on average 2 people get off. And also removing the stop at the southeast corner of Armor and Lynn. This is actually a stop that KCATA doesn't have any data on. It's kind of a lost stop. There is a sign there, but they don't have any data. They have 4,000 stops in the metro. Occasionally they will discover one that is not in their database, and so they have no data on it. We are also recommending relocating to the east the stop that's currently at the southwest corner of Armor and Howell. So it would line up to the stop right here outside of City Hall. They would be across the street from each other. That stop currently has 2 people that get on every day and 2 people that get off. And then moving the north side of Armor adjacent to Taco Bell, moving that bus stop to the west. 5 people get on and 3 people get off that stop every day. And that would better align it to the stop at the to the stop across the street on the south side. We would end up with 4 stops on the north side of Armor Road, 4 stops on the south side of Armor Road. They would more or less align with each other. We would not be removing or relocating the most heavily used stops in this segment of Armor Road. KCATA is on board with making these changes. They think that this works well for them. We still have well-spaced stops. They're approximately 2 blocks apart from each other. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about this proposal.
I've got a couple of questions and a comment. First of all, thank you for laying this out in this table format. First read it on the agenda and saw the bus stop removal, and knee-jerk reaction is like, oh my gosh, because I'm a bus user and I'm one of the ones that use a bus stop that's going to be relocated. But it doesn't look like it's that much of a change. I'm one of the ones that suggested this clause in our contract so that we could look at this. So I would be in favor of this so it can line up with the bike lanes. And, I'm not a visual person, so I trust that our staff is going to get it done right. Just one question. First of all, it won't change any bus stops downtown in the downtown district, right?
No, this would just be making changes to the stops between Fayette and Ozark.
Okay.
So there is an existing stop at Erie. That's one of the reasons why we're recommending removing the stop at Armor and Fayette, because it's 1 block from a stop to the west and 1 block from a stop to the east.
Okay, all right, very good.
I think it sounds, if they're happy with it and you're happy with it, then
one other question when you're relocating the one that's in front of the Taco Bell at kind of west of Macon, and you're going to locate it to Knox, whereabouts would that be? I know there's a Quick Trip there. Where is that stop exactly going to be? Do you know?
Right. So on the south side of the road, it's going to be, if you're looking at that intersection. Let me see. We can. Flop that.
is that where you get?
Hold on. Let me zoom.
Well, I
in.
get on the
Stop that's right there on the south side will be, it might shift about 5 feet,
Sure.
but we're not counting that as relocation.
Okay.
And the relocated stop would then be on the northeast side of that intersection, on the east side of Knox, north side of Armor Road. So that's a near side stop in bus stop language. So it immediately adjacent to Quick Trip.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Amendments to Title 15 of the City Code, Buildings and Construction. Bill number 7302, ordinance number 9099.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the building official, David Harris.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Staff is recommending today the following changes to the building code, Title 15, which is building and construction. The City Council on May 20th, 2014 passed an ordinance adopting by reference the 2012 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code and International Building Code. This comes with other additional codes. The ICC published standards and produces updates on a 3-year cycle. This is to update and incorporate new standards. Staff's been evaluating the 2018 the additions of the updated codes, and evaluation of the 2018 property maintenance code. I think at this time we find that we would want to recommend adoption of it. Evaluation of the 2018 codes included public comments period through April of 2018. No comments were received about the property maintenance code. Property maintenance regulation provides minimum standards for exterior maintenance, utilities, facilities, and other physical features and conditions essential to the structures and safe and sanitary occupancy of the residents and dwellings. The 2018 Property Maintenance Code contains an update that strengthens fire-resistant ratings for separating adjacent property and adjacent spaces in the buildings, and revised standards for fire protection systems and new carbon monoxide regulations. Where property falls out of compliance with these standards, staff on a regular basis engage with homeowners, renters, property owners, tenants, neighbors concerning these issues. Some issues fall under a legal process. The process is to assure that the minimum regulations and some requirements that have immediate need are addressed. Proposed by the staff is the ordinance in a new program for registration of landlords. This is to try and address some of the issues that we have day to day or week to week dealing with property owners and needing to contact property owners immediately. This free registration program will provide staff with improved information for identification and immediate contacts for persons and entities having legal responsibilities of the properties. There's also an Article 2, which is a dangerous buildings section. We're recommending minor updates to that. That's to align this article to state standards. We also are suggesting to update or to create a new Article 3. This new Article 3 would be titled Abandoned Structures. This ordinance defines criteria when a building is considered abandoned, requires owners to register with the city, and establishes a program for monitoring abandoned structures for the safety of the neighborhood. While the city does not have a high number of abandoned structures, community development staff constantly monitors a few structures that meet that criteria. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 8504, amending ordinance number 8753, and amending Title 15, Buildings and Construction of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, by repealing Chapter 15.24 in its entirety and adopting a new Chapter 15.24, which includes Article 1, the International Property Maintenance Code, Article 2, dangerous buildings or structures, and Article 3, abandoned buildings or structures.
I move that bill number 7302 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9099.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 8504, amending ordinance number 8753, and amending Title 15, Buildings and Construction of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, by repealing Chapter 15.24 in its entirety and adopting a new Chapter 15.24, which includes Article 1, the International Property Maintenance Code, Article 2, dangerous buildings or structures, and Article 3, abandoned buildings or structures.
Okay, 17.
Building and Fire Code Modification, 2100 Howell, Resolution number 18-047.
Eric.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Mr. Harris.
This request is for your consideration to approve a site-specific modification of the International Building Code and the International Fire Code, which is requested by the North Kansas City School District to allow them to install an automatic system in the structure located at 2100 Howell, except in the attic where smoke detectors and fire blocking would be installed. No storage will be allowed. This is in lieu of adding sprinkler heads, which would be a normal requirement by the building code. The school district purchased this building in July 2018. They intend to renovate the building and provide classrooms during the 2018-2019 school session. According to the building code, this constitutes a change of occupancy. Change of occupancies such as this require that a building is brought up to today's standards. The current code would require an automatic sprinkler system be installed throughout any area that is greater than 12,000 square feet. This particular structure is 16,956 square feet. The south first floor area, previously used as an assembly, has a 2,705 square foot attic space with a gable roof assembly that would normally require these sprinklers to be installed within that attic space. So in lieu of this, the school district requests an installation of smoke detectors, fire blocking, so that the fire cannot, if there was a fire, could not migrate up into that space, and the requirement that there is no storage in the attic. Staff, including the fire chief, discussed this with the school district, and we are recommending approval.
Question. How do we monitor that they're not using that area for storage?
We're going to implement two situations. One is that we are going to consider issuing what is called a operational permit. Operational permit will then from that point on be within the fire inspector's purview to regularly inspect this building to make sure that any of these conditions are adhered to. So that's one of the things that would be picked up. Okay. The other is the smoke alarm will be connected to the fire alarm. So if it goes off, we will know that something is going on in that space.
In the attic, is there any mechanical things in the attic or electrical?
No, sir. There's no mechanical. Currently, the electrician is removing wiring, and there should not be any actual wiring or mechanical devices in that area.
That helps my mind a little bit because most fires in places of assembly are started by mechanical devices or electrical. So I'm glad to hear there's nothing in the attic. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Municipal Code amendments regarding bicycling in North Kansas City. Bill number 7312, ordinance number 9109.
Eric.
Thanks, sir. I'll call on Ms. Copeland.
This item follows up on our work session with you on July 3rd, 2018, where we reviewed recommendations for amendments to Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic regarding bicycling in North Kansas City. This ordinance contains all of the amendments that we discussed that evening. So updating definitions, providing new protections for vulnerable road users, section on riding to the right and on bike paths, biking on the sidewalk and in the central business district, passing at a safe distance, driving in a bicycle lane, stopping, standing, and parking in a bicycle lane, and right-of-way in a crosswalk. Based on your feedback from that work session, we added a definition of bicycle lanes to the proposed amendments, and then we also have added some additional definitions regarding scooters. We recommend all of these amendments to improve the safety of people who are driving, bicycling, or walking in North Kansas City, and I would be happy to answer any additional questions you might have tonight.
Were any of the businesses consulted on riding the bicycles on the sidewalk in the business district?
No, we didn't talk to any businesses in particular.
I can see a problem with riding bicycles in the downtown section where all the stores are.
Well, I actually talked to one personally, and she was fine with it because she felt like the people who come to her place would be the ones maybe riding the bicycles, so it allows them closer access. So I can just say from my experience, I met with one, talked with him.
I talked to one tonight right before the meeting. He was also fine with it.
I thought we kind of discussed that the last time we had this conversation, and the council was feeling that that was a pretty normal thing to do. Didn't we discuss it?
We did discuss.
Well, not all of us agreed to that.
Well, I don't even remember who disagreed.
I did.
Okay.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by amending Chapter 10.04 Definitions, Chapter 10.20 Rules of the Road Generally, Chapter 10.40 Pedestrians, Chapter 10.48 Stopping, Standing, and Parking, and Chapter 10.60 Bicycles thereof.
I move that bill number 7312 be placed on its second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9109.
Second.
Call a roll.
Councilmember Stewart.
No.
Councilmember Stephan.
No.
Councilmember Farr.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong.
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce.
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman. Councilmember Sanders.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger.
No.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by amending Chapter 10.04 Definitions, Chapter 10.20 Rules of the Road Generally, Chapter 10.40 Pedestrians, Chapter 10.48 Stopping, Standing, and Parking, and Chapter 10.60 Bicycles thereof.
Okay, number 19.
Change order Gateway Arch Project.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Ms. Copeland.
You may have noticed we have a new gateway arch on Armour Road near Buchanan. Tomorrow and Thursday, crews should be on site to finish the columns on either side. In mid-July, we received a change order from Mega Industries. It was a request to add additional brackets for structural support and regarding steel prices. We did receive this request before your last meeting, but not in enough time to add it to the agenda. And so staff discussed this request with the mayor, and he authorized construction to move forward. The change order results in, it's an additional $16,630.55, which is a 6% increase in the total project cost. It was recommended, the additional brackets were recommended by the structural engineer who reviewed the plans to provide additional stiffening to eliminate any sway in the archway in a 45-degree wind. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have about this item.
We certainly want that thing secure, and didn't this contract come in under what you budgeted anyway in the beginning?
It was
Sarah?
significantly
Yeah,
under budget,
okay.
yes.
Yeah. Move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to mention the total cost of this was $280,602, but this will be an additional $16,630.55, right?
Yes.
Move to approve if there's no other questions.
Second. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very unorganized there. We could do that
Is
better.
anybody
Is
opposed?
anybody opposed?
I'm glad you approved that because I'd already authorized that.
You've been on.
Were there any opposed?
Yeah, I think,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Was you opposed, Mayor?
Okay, 20.
Award of contract for Ozark Culvert Dredging, resolution number 18-045.
Eric.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the Public Works Director, Pat Hawver, to present the staff report for the next two items.
Thank you, sir. The city owns and is responsible for the maintenance of a culvert that is located below the Hillside Levee Creek, which is on Ozark, south of Sunny Hills Apartment. The Corps of Engineers inspected the Hillside Levee in 2017 and recommended that the culvert be dredged to clear the accumulation of soil, debris, and riprap. The city did not budget for the dredging Ozark culvert in 2018 because the notice from the Corps was too late in the budget process to do so. Rather than budgeting this item in 2008-2019 fiscal year, staff recommends that the dredging be performed in August while the creek is generally dry. 3 written quotes were received from dredging the culvert, and the lowest and best quotation was by Blue Moon Hauling in the amount of $4,754. Staff recommends adding a 15% contingency to this project in the event of our unforeseen conditions are discovered. So a resolution approving an appropriation in the amount of $5,467 from the WPC fund to the capital outlay infrastructure account has been prepared for the consideration of the city council.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill.
Wait a minute. Okay, the award of contract. Who made the motion?
Bill.
Okay, and the second?
Me.
Okay. 21, budget amendment for Ozark Culvert Dredging, resolution number 18-046.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 22.
License agreement, Rabbit Hole Construction Staging, bill number 7310, ordinance number 9107.
Eric.
Thanks, sir. I'll call on Ms. Copeland.
The Rabbit Hole has acquired the property at the southwest corner of 14th and Knox, and they intend to begin demolition in the interior of that building, in the first and second floors and the basement, sometime in the very near future, potentially this week still. That building occupies most of the lot and does not provide them with much open space for construction staging. They wish to use a portion of the right-of-way that's immediately adjacent to the building for construction staging and material storage. The as shown in the diagram, what the space they would take up is currently being used for on-street parking. We typically, when a property owner is using or has a request to use property that's owned by the city or that's in our right-of-way, have them enter into a license agreement with us that gives them permission to use the city's property for a certain period of time. In this case, Mr. Barzee has prepared the license agreement for your approval.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh. We're gonna have a second reading?
First reading.
After we do the first.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, it passed.
Was no one opposed?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. An ordinance adopting and approving a license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and the Rabbit Hole KC regarding city right-of-way generally located on the east side of a certain building along Knox Street, having a street address of 919 East 14th Avenue in the City of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move that bill number 7310 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9107.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance adopting and approving a license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and the Rabbit Hole KC regarding city right-of-way generally located on the east side of a certain building along Knox Street, having a street address of 919 East 14th Avenue in the City of North Kansas City, Missouri.
23.
Financial disclosure ordinance.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the city clerk, Crystal Doss.
This is the ordinance that the council has to adopt each year so that we can send it into the state of Missouri. It's because we have a budget over $1 million, and we need to have it in before September 15th. And it just lays out who needs to fill out the financial disclosure statements.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials.
I move that bill number 7303 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9100.
Second.
Call roll.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials.
24.
An ordinance approving accounts due and payable by the city through August 3rd, 2018. Bill number 7311, ordinance number 9108.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 3rd, 2018.
I move that bill number 7311 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9108.
Second.
Call roll.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 3rd, 2018.
Mr. Eric.
Thanks, sir. There are a couple of items in the council packet, the regular upcoming city items of note, and the quarterly financial report for the quarter between April 1st and June 30th. If you have any questions about that, the finance manager, Shirley Land, is here. A couple of meeting requests. First of all, you may recall that we'd indicated that it might be necessary for you to have a very brief special meeting late in August in order to set the property tax rate for the city. That the reason being is that we get the information typically, sometime early mid-August. There's a 14-day public hearing notice requirement, and we often haven't receive the information in time for your second meeting in August, and that is the case again this year. As of today, August 7th, we've not received that assessment information from the county assessor. We do expect to receive it here any day, but then we'd need to do a public hearing notice of 14 days, and that gets us past the 21st. So I'd like to inquire about your availability on Tuesday, August 28th, or Wednesday, August 29th at 6 o'clock p.m. for a meeting that typically lasts no longer than 15 minutes.
What
You
time
avail-
would said
We
meeting-
normally would do that at 6 o'clock. We could do it anytime you like.
I'm clear.
I'm good on Tuesday.
I'm good on Tuesday, not Wednesday.
Okay. Tuesday, the 28th, should we aim, but we assume that we'll have the notice in time for that. If that changes, we'll let you know. But we have to have it done by September 1st, that's the law.
And you
So,
need 5.
yes.
Okay, just checking, in case I can't go. Just in case, planning ahead. I think I'm here, yeah.
We'll aim for Tuesday, August 28th at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you. Also, would like to request that the council schedule a special meeting in work session format, if possible, on and off Tuesday, that being Tuesday, October 9th. I'll let Ms. Copeland talk about the proposed purpose of that.
Olson Associates is working on the engineering for Burlington Corridor and our Burlington Corridor improvements. They are getting to the point of finishing preliminary plans. And so there's still a couple of months away from doing that, but getting to the point of thinking about finishing preliminary plans. And at that point, they would have some information to share with you and also have some need for feedback from you on their budget estimates, what, phase 1 of this project, how we could break the whole project up into phases beyond phase 1, some items that would need your input on the design, some just general direction that we would need from you on moving forward. We anticipate that this is probably more than 45 minutes. And so that's why our request is to consider an off Tuesday so we could have some additional time, spend all the time you wanted talking about Burlington and the future of Burlington and getting direction from you on moving forward after we finish the preliminary plans.
Is that a 6 o'clock meeting?
You could do any time you wanted. Sure, 6 o'clock.
And what day is that?
That would be a Tuesday, October 9th.
I'm clear. I don't have any appointments.
Right. Sounds like we can plan on that?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
I will be out of town, for sure.
But is it all right with you if we go ahead and
Oh,
schedule?
yes.
Yes, okay.
Keep
All right.
moving forward.
Okay, thank you. We'll plan accordingly. Thank you. I'd like to call on the Assistant City Administrator, Kim Nakahoto, to provide an update on the municipal court.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We appreciate you guys' support on moving municipal court back over into the middle of the building to come into compliance with Missouri Supreme Court Rule 37.04. Over the last several weeks, we have been moving operations back over to that section. We've welcomed last Monday our new municipal court clerk, Elizabeth Robertson, and we've had a bit of a soft opening of that new facility. We had court here last night, and that facility was open. It functioned very well. New signage was required to come into compliance with that Supreme Court rule, and you may have noticed some new signage on the front doors, the vinyl lettering. Before we kind of announce it to the public, we are still awaiting the metal letters that will go over in the municipal court entrance on the exterior. We are anticipating that that will be installed either late this week or early next week, and after that installation, we'll do more of like some public noticing that, hey, the new municipal court counter is over in that section. So we do appreciate you guys' support on that. Do you guys have any questions about that move?
Are you going to have a grand opening?
Would you like to cut the ribbon?
Yes, no, the mayor,
You got to get a ticket.
Will there be food?
That depends on my budget amendment proposal next week. Just kidding.
Thank you, Kim. One more. Just like to provide an update on a project that was budgeted in the fiscal year 2018 budget. which we called the City Hall facelift. This is actually a multi-year proposal that we have to make renovations to the exterior or interior of City Hall, to spruce up the building, do some things that would improve the appearance, that would improve the function of the building. One of this year's project was intended to be a renovation of the bathrooms here off of the City Council room lobby. We have determined that that will probably cost a bit more than we had originally expected, because we realized that they're not ADA compliant, and that hadn't been part of the original plan. We do, if we're going to do renovations, need to make them ADA compliant. So we have instead planned on that in the budget that you'll receive next week. I guess that'll be another announcement I'll make tonight. You will receive your budget. We're aiming for next Thursday. That you'll see in that budget for a larger amount than we had budgeted this year. But for this year's budget, there are a couple of things that we are working on doing within this year's budget allocation. And one of them is to replace the City Hall monument sign on Howell. We've heard quite a bit over the years that that's a sign that needs replacing. We agree it's in bad shape and presents a bad appearance for the public. So we are working on obtaining quotes to replace that sign with one more in line with the signage that we have. And we would be bringing you something for your approval here in the not too distant future for that. The other item is one that I have desired to do for a while now, and that is there is an interior wall in the administration section here of City Hall that separates the front off the people who sit up at the front desk. It separates the accounting technician from the other two employees, and they can't see each other. And I think that the area would function much better if they all had visibility to each other. That wall is actually a brick wall, but it is not load-bearing. And we have been working on getting some quotes to remove that wall. Looks like it'll be in the $5,000 or $6,000 range, which is a lot less than we expected. So we're still working on obtaining quotes for that. But that's another item that I think you'd be seeing in front of you in the not too distant future. I think that'll improve the function. There were some other things that I wanted to do in that front desk area, but those were more expensive than I'd hoped, and so we're putting that off until some other time. But that's one improvement I think we can make relatively inexpensively that would be an improvement. So just want to let you know that you'll be seeing those in the near future. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Well, you're first.
Oh, thank you. Well, the only thing I have is I seen a deal on Facebook from one of our business people. In fact, he's been in business about 50 years. And he put on Facebook he appreciated the public works guys or the building and grounds. I don't know where the line is, but the cleanup of the city and the trash pickup is, I don't know how many trash cans we have, but they're up and down the streets and taking care of the garden areas. Anyway, he put it on Facebook, so I thought I'd bring it to your attention. Thank the guys for all their good work.
Well, I'd like to start by saying thank you to Don Bossert and Linda Black for consenting to serve further on the hospital board. And got another thing. This came in, well, it's been a while ago, and just wasn't. Things worked out, I didn't get to it. And that's a letter from a nice lady who lives here in the city about our emergency responders. And she says a neighbor called 911 and requested an ambulance. He goes on to say that all the while they were assuring her that she was fine and doing great. They kept her calm. Once at the hospital, they handed her off to the ER staff. She says one of the ambulance personnel, she was one of the paramedics, she caught the name of Alex, and she was really thankful for the not only the work of our emergency responders on this, but also for the doctors and the ER and the nurses and support staff throughout the hospital. And she wrote quite a long letter. She says that she hopes that we keep a wonderful hospital up and running and will stand behind and support it. I have enjoyed watching many wonderful things happening in our town. She's proud of the development. And, you know, when she went to the hospital from the ER, it was somewhere in here where she went to up on the critical care unit. So whatever this was, it was rather very serious. And I think recognition should be noted here. That's all I have.
Just wanted to thank Public Works. I mean, we had a few tree limbs come down last night, and I'm always amazed that they're out driving around and they see one there, they go up and cut it up, throw it in their truck, and away they go. So just one more thing that keeps our city beautiful, and I really appreciate that, and I'm sure the neighbors do too. Also wanted to extend our welcome to the scouts that are out in the audience tonight. Glad you guys came down. You're always welcome. Come down and enjoy. That's all I have.
Yeah, I saw the scouts out there. I also want to welcome them tonight. I'm guessing you're here for your citizenship in the community badge. Yeah, that was my very first meeting I attended as well. Was my city council meeting was for that badge, so that was the beginning.
Look where you can end up.
Yeah.
Right here in
Yeah,
this
here.
chair.
Yeah. Then I did have a couple questions on the demolition on Armour and Swift. Do we have any update on that?
We've extended the deadline till August 16th.
Okay. Then also, I think the gateway signage looks great. I think it'll be a great landmark, and I think it, I don't know, looks great. That's all I got.
I had two things. Pat, thank you for taking care of that branch ahead of time on Erie. I'm sorry I gave you the wrong address, typo. But it's a good thing because that particular tree took out at least 2 cars in the year I've lived there. So get it all knocked out. So I think we're going to be good there. Also, I wanted to, let everybody know, because apparently not everybody knows, that River North is having a launch party on Thursday at the Armour Loft event space from 6 to 9. So I know there's been some interest in the community and also some concern by some in regard to what they're doing. This would be a really wonderful opportunity if you have any questions about these local businesses and what their game plan is with their association, to go and educate yourself. I know I'm going to go. I'm looking forward to it. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I have a couple of things. One is also congratulations to Don Bossert and Linda Black on the hospital board and thank you for their previous service. And I'm happy to continue to see progress on 1 North and also on the street improvements on Armour between Fayette and Ozark. And I know tonight we passed a controversial bicycle code amendment, and I appreciate that passed and was in support of it. But I also want to note that, in the future, if we have problems or have concerns as a council, we can modify that ordinance as we can our other ordinances. So I just want to put that out there and know that if we do have concerns and see things that we don't like, we can make some adjustments to it. I think the Gateway Arch, personally, I think it looks great. I've had lots of positive feedback, especially from residents and businesses and business owners, so they all have loved it. I think people who live in North Kansas City appreciate the signage as it sort of shows where they live, as opposed to always having to have conversations about where is North Kansas City. I have heard a couple of concerns, ironically, from people who don't live in North Kansas City about cost. They're throwing around, a couple people threw around to me $500,000, blah, blah, blah. And, so that obviously, as you saw tonight, is not actually what we've spent. But the other is, I think people don't always understand convention tourism funds and what that can and cannot be used for. So I think there's a perception sometimes with folks that we're using operating funds to build a sign. And so I'm wondering, just to throw that out there, if there's anything we can do from a public education standpoint with regards to FAQs or something that says, here's, why do we put a sign up? Where does the money come from? Why aren't you buying, having more firefighters because of that? I think people don't necessarily understand where it comes from.
We'll see what we can do to try to increase awareness about that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, because it's not the last thing we'll do. We have more things in the future, so I'm going to continue to have these conversations. And then I also wanted to say thanks to Liz for her work at the Parks and Rec movie in the park. It was The Greatest Showman, which according to my 12-year-old is the best movie ever made. And Liz worked very hard that night producing lots of popcorn, 150-some bags. So thank you, Liz, for your service that night. It was very appreciated. That's all I had.
I just want to say, I've been on the council a long time, and I'm always proud of our staff. They never cease to fail to impress me with their professionalism and the way that they present the problems of the day to us in such a very succinct manner, and they've obviously studied it out. They present it to us in a manner that even someone like me can halfway understand. So thank you very much for being with North Kansas City, and you earn your money, believe me. Thank you. And oh, by the way, I wanted to mention the passing of Dr. Montgomery from the North Kansas City Hospital. Maybe some of you may have not realized it, but the man had a sudden turn for the worse. He apparently died in his sleep. His wife could not get any response from him, and I never have heard, and they're not saying, maybe someone else knows besides me, but they haven't said exactly what he had, a massive heart attack or an aneurysm or something, but he was a fixture at North Kansas City Hospital for a lot of years. He was the head of the cardiology department, and he was on the medical chief of staff for a number of years. So North Kansas City and the hospital have lost a pretty good man. Remember him in your thoughts and your prayers. That's all I have.
You guys always take all the limelight. I ain't got nothing left. I'm done.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.